So, as always, the podcast wouldn't be possible without our brilliant partners, and they are CANNA. Follow them on Instagram at canna.uk.official and check out their website, canna-uk.com. Absolutely brilliant set of people, brilliant nutrients. If you're new to growing, if you're an experienced grower, you can't go wrong with CANNA nutrients. Check them out. Go on there. Check their Instagram out. It's in my opinion, it's one of the best as well. Canna.uk.official, and they show you all kinds of growing hints, tips, everything to help you get the best out of your plants. Next, we have AutoPot, the gravity-fed watering system. On Instagram at AutoPot_global and AutoPot Cultivation Consultancy. Check out their website, autopot.co.uk. We say it every week, they've got a system for every grower. They've got a method for every grower. You can't go wrong with them. With the new and updated systems as well, there's just nothing that can go wrong. It's a brilliant system, brilliant people. Check them out. If you're a system grower, you need to get involved with AutoPot. Next up is BudBox. On Instagram at BudBox Grow Tents, and their website is budboxgrowtents.com. If you are growing inside the tent, you can get no better than BudBox. The poles, the materials, the reflective white, always go for the white, it's the best. Just save them pennies and get the white in, because it is much superior to the silver lining tent. BudBox, again, brilliant team, brilliant people, and they just also happen to have a brilliant product. So if you're a tent grower, you need to go and get a BudBox. Foliar feeding is something we've been a massive fan of over the years, and we have the pleasure of having Optic Foliar as a partner. On Instagram, Optic Foliar UK, and their website is opticfoliar.com. The first foliar spray you can use with the lights on. No burning, no bleaching, all the nutrients you need. Absolutely phenomenal product. The best foliar spray on the market, in my opinion. DynoMyco is our fungus partner. They help trees communicate. They help plants expand their root network. Phenomenal product. On Instagram at DynoMyco, DynoMyco, and their website is DynoMyco.com. We've had Ari on the website. We've had Ari on the podcast before. So knowledgeable, brilliant person. Really enjoyed our time with him, and he's going to be back this year for another podcast to go into the nitty gritty and go into the details. So go and check them out. If you need to improve your growing, you've got to add DynoMyco to your soil. It's just going to absolutely exponentially increase your quality and your yields. And last but by no means least, we have Garden Culture. On Instagram at Garden Culture Magazine, and the website to read all the magazines if you don't want to get the printed versions is gardenculturemagazine.com. And without further ado, we can't wait to introduce today's podcast with our brilliant friends come all the way from America. I'll introduce you to Veg+Bloom.
All good? Ready to go? Turn my voice up a little bit. Oh, God, for everyone watching, the whole family.
Are you ready to go? I built it here in the house that I built, in the booth that I built.
I know people tune in every Sunday to listen, but even when business is good, we still manage to do the podcast.
Barry,
Steve,
it's cosy tonight.
it is. We've got a full house, haven't we, Steve?
Look at that, we haven't even started and we've got already laughing in the background. You're going to be okay? Hey, you're going to be okay there?
Red, be quiet, mate. Hey, come on, lad.
First 5 seconds in, he's already
he's going to interrupt us all night, isn't he?
Fuck's sake. So, Who've we got, Barry? I told you that special guest this week.
These fellas have done some air miles to get to us here, haven't they? We must be special, us.
They've flown over just
know
for
what
this
it was.
podcast,
It was
haven't they?
because of the price I said I charged them to come on the podcast.
Yeah, and the competition that they're letting us run to give away some products.
Yeah, man. I thought you were on about the competition they've got in the UK, other nutrients and that, but I don't know whether they've got any.
They're definitely not in the powdered. And does that give it away?
It might have.
Should we let them introduce themselves? We've got Veg+Bloom, very, very proud and humble for you to travel all this way just for us, as of course you have. So introduce yourselves, tell everyone who you are and the company, and we'll get into it.
My name is Chris LaRose, and I've got Adrian here. Introduce yourself. Adrian.
Yeah, this is Adrian Romero. Yeah, Chris's right hand.
You must be a busy man.
Yeah, pretty busy.
Are you ambidextrous? Because I can make it a busy fucking left-hand man as well.
Yeah.
Let me get in the middle of you.
Yeah.
It's cozy, this podcast, though. It's cozy. Barry's turned the lights off. He's dimming them right down. We're having a couple of beers with some Doritos. I always get the piss taken out of me for how I say that. We've got some guests in the background as well. Silent J and Silent Bob in the background here.
Yeah, look at them.
They've been in so many podcasts you wouldn't believe, but you've never heard or seen them in your life. The secret guests. Right. Let's get into it because Veg+Bloom has been around for a while. I remember the wholesaler that you've got, Highlight Horticulture. I remember they were talking about it years ago, and they brought it into the country years ago.
How long have you been going in America?
We started in about 2010. That's when I started the company. Still going strong.
And how long's it been in the UK?
5 years.
5 years. So I remember when it first got brought over to the UK, and everyone who listens to the podcast knows I'm the science geek and nerd, and I love something new. Thought this powder's brilliant. Used it, great results, and it's not a problem, but one of the things I came across is it's so easy to use. You find yourself with so much time, you're like, surely not. Surely I've got to add something else. So we're going to come to that later about telling people about what's in it and how to use it, and don't think that you have to put other things into it. I was like, this is great, but it didn't. The UK market is behind. We've said it in hundreds of podcasts that we're 10 years behind the US. And it's only in the last 6 months, I'd say, maybe a year, but definitely last 6 months, a lot of people have been converting to powdered nutrients. A lot of people.
I'll be dead honest. Like when it came into our shop, I laughed at it and put it on the bottom shelf, just because
I know
it's powdered nutrients in the UK isn't a thing, but it wasn't a thing. And like Steve said, in the past 6 months, it's became a thing. Do you know what I mean?
And it's more testament to the product because we did a podcast with Greenhouse Powder Feed, and 7 years ago when they were bringing out theirs, and it's got the name behind it, Greenhouse Powder, like Greenhouse. Anyone knows who they are.
Yeah.
It just didn't take off. Not in the UK anyway. Definitely not in our shop. I keep my ear to the ground on UK, what's going on. And it didn't really take off. And it's got a big name behind it. So there's no good having a name behind it. People still aren't going to go for it. Veg+Bloom, I think it's less about the name, more about the quality of the product. But we're getting into like talking about what the history and what's going on. So we've welcomed you. Tell us where you're from, where it's based, where it all started. And then tell us a little bit about the history of Veg+Bloom, and we'll get into some questions. So kick it off.
Sure, yeah. So Hydroponic Research is based in San Diego, California, about 20 minutes from the border with Mexico. Again, the company was started in 2010, and I've seen many other companies since we've started do the dry powder feed type model. And it's not easy to develop a product that is complete and entirely complete. All of your micro, macro, trace element nutrients all in a powder. And I feel like, with experience and with time, we do it best. We've been doing this. In some ways, I feel like we've created some of the competition that we've seen. And in some cases, even worked with the competition and, had them, try to make their own brands.
Yeah.
And so, it's an interesting industry, but I can, confidently say that we stand apart, and our quality and the fact that we engineer and manufacture all in house. Everything is made and packaged under the same roof, which is kind of a rarity in this industry. So from spreadsheet and formulation to manufacturing and packaging, it all happens in San Diego.
What is your background in feeds or plants or whatever you want to call it? What is your background? How did it start for you? How did it start for you that you've brought a powdered feed out?
So, being the son of an electrical engineer, there was a certain discipline, that was kind of present in my upbringing. My father was he's an electrical engineer as a professional, but then, I witnessed his passion and just enjoyment from his land, like growing fruits in San Diego. We have a really temperate climate. You can grow. It's one of the, I would say the greenest zones as far as its climate goes. You can grow such a wide variety of plant materials. And I saw my father really appreciate that. And I would say that's one of the most valuable lessons he taught me was that, it's not really about what you do for a living. It's about what you do, to kind of produce for your family, you got to stay in touch with nature, regardless of what you do. You spend a lot of time inside at a desk. Well, on the weekends, he was outside enjoying his land. And so with hydroponics, it's sort of a graduated version of that, right? You have more of an ability to produce, what plants are able to produce. So I had a genuine fascination with just horticulture, plant physiology, and decided to take that to a different level by manufacturing and scripting the nutrient, the feed, being able to prescribe, a plant, specific ratios of elements really helps you take it to another level. So it just it happened over, I'd say 20 years of time. And it's passion driven. It's not oh, that's a great opportunity, I'm going to go make money. It's I really want to do this. This is something I enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many years have you been in the industry? Because your Veg+Bloom has been going for 10 years. And I want to know, when was the flip? When did you, because you'll have used liquid nutrients. Yeah. When did you go in your head, actually, there's a better way to do this, in my opinion? And that's when the development began.
About 15 years ago. So I've been applying hydroponics for about 25 years. And, I would say, about 10 years into it, I realized, I need to consolidate the chemistry. This is crazy. I'm buying bottles that honestly look like they're being sold in a cartoon. This doesn't feel real. Like, what is this stuff I'm adding? And not really knowing what I was adding, decided to look deeper into what's on the label and what's not on the label. Because just to be totally honest, when you script labels for products, like in our California is probably the highest regulated, fertilizer, state to do business in. And we're manufacturing there. So jumping through the hoops of, DOA, which is Department of Agriculture, that's who, monitors fertilizers for sale. It's very difficult to, manufacture and sell fertilizers in California. So, I don't know why I went off on a tangent on that, but
it's nice to know.
You kind of have to work around the law, it's, in every respect, regardless of what you're growing. And in my case, I was, you had to take your craft indoors and hide it back in the 90s and early 2000s. Things have changed in California, obviously, but just in that process, learning how to design and engineer a controlled environment, right? Because you can't grow, regardless of what you're throwing at it nutritionally, without a proper environment, it's not going to be proper. Yeah. Finished product. Yeah. And so, applying hydroponics, over that first 10 years, just kind of realized there are too many things that can go wrong outside of just the nutrient program. I need to make the nutrient program easier so I can spend more time focusing on the environment. It just kind of all ties together, It's kind of, having a 17-year-old son, I can say it's almost like raising a child. It's a 10-week relationship though. It's I gotta focus on this for 10 weeks and make this flower perfect. And so I wanted to make tools that were the easiest to use in that respect, consolidated, not needing to go buy another bottle because it's going to make the flavor better. The flavor's already great, and so, with our SKUs, I would say on average, our end users using 3 of our SKUs. We've got a base nutrition SKU, which is Veg+Bloom, that line. VBX is our newest formula for complete plant nutrition. And then we have leverage tools. Flow, which is a water treatment. It clarifies nutrient solutions, keeps them clean and free of biofilms, keeps them slightly acidic, which is where, you want your pH in the right zone. So very user-friendly, non-toxic, non-elemental. It's a perfect pH down / water clarifying agent. And that's one of the only liquids we make. But as far as our, general nutrition products, we can keep it really simple. Most of our end users are reaching A+ results with 2 products.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to refine the ingredients? Because I know we know some of the ingredients and they're crazy to think about the extent that you've gone to. And I'm going to make this ingredient up, but green-lipped mussel extract and all kinds of amazing stuffs in this. How long did it take to refine it and think, that's it, I've nailed it?
So if you're considering procurement, getting a hold of some of these exotic compounds, we do live in a great place for that too. Being in California, we have access to a wide array of mined minerals. And, with the port being on the ocean, we're also able to receive, foreign, chemistry as well. Nobody makes mag sulfate like Germans, truly they make great magnesium sulfate. No one makes calcium nitrate like Norwegians, it's these are the best places to get some of these minerals, you know what I mean? And so, but then also the fulvic acid, for example, which is an amazing chelate plant stimulant. That's something that was pioneered and really researched in, lab analysis, making sure those ingredients are not only pure and potent, but also free of heavy metals. And it's just incredibly important that what you're putting into your plants, if you're going to be taking that finished good and putting, consuming it yourself, that it's free as possible of heavy metals and impurities.
You're not going to tell us the ingredients, obviously. Or if you want to, please feel free to tell us all the ingredients. But
make sure you grab a pen, piece of paper.
We're going to put it as a downloadable PDF.
I'm going to give you the formula, but I'm not going to tell you where to get the ingredients.
Every 10 minutes, just drop an ingredient so people have to listen to the whole thing. Now, there's some ingredients that you talk about publicly, isn't it? And they're impressive, like liquid nutrients. People are using ammonium phosphate, calcium nitrate, all the chemical names people have heard of. Give us 2 ingredients that will impress people. And I know you've said publicly before some of the ingredients.
Sure. I would say the one ingredient that impressed me the most using it, experimenting it, was monopotassium phosphite, not phosphate. And it's the basis for our Shine product. And it has a unique way of triggering the plant's immune system to produce more oil to defend itself. So it really kicks the SAR. It really.
I didn't know this, right? You've just taught me something, and I'll find it for you. And maybe Barry or Jay might remember, but in 2014, when we started the podcast, I shouted to the industry, potassium phosphite, like I did with a lot of other things, like get yourself on Instagram. Nobody listened until it was too late. Potassium phosphite, and you know what? I found it. I created like a label, just messing about. And years ago, and I didn't know that you had potassium phosphite, and I've been a proponent of that for years, and it just falls on deaf ears, and it absolutely is a well better product. I'm made up
by itself. It's used as a fungicide. It's not a fungicide. It wouldn't be what you would call. It wouldn't be classified as a fungicide, but it does have fungicidal properties.
I remember saying to people, if you spray it, it can help reduce powdery mildew. Yeah. Something along those lines. And you know what? Until you've just said it then, I completely forgot about that because it was years ago. And when you've said it and you see a big smile on my face, I thought, I remember that. I remember when I was really deep into my research of hydroponics and I came across phosphite and I was telling people and they're like, yeah. And it's just bossed to it.
Mine came out when? 2014,
13,
14.
13, 14. And so phosphite, I discovered phosphite. It was being marketed as a treatment for a type of rot that avocado trees. So we have a lot of avocado trees in San Diego. I mean, not as many as we did with the droughts.
Yeah.
A lot of the groves have disappeared, but phosphite was used as a fungicide, but had also, people had observed these novel qualities as far as its SAR response, and, you know, really stimulating a plant's immune system. But, you know, make no mistake, by itself, it's not a great source of phosphorus. So don't mistake the phosphite aspect of it being it replaces phosphorus in a fertilizer. So it is part of an array of phosphorus sources in shine, but alone it has this ability to stimulate the plant's immune system, which in turn produces more oils and nectar in plants. They call them nectar secretion agents.
Very nice.
And saponins, which is another designer chemical that we use, which is extracted from yucca, which you have some plants right here behind me, and quileja, which is a small shrub that grows in Chile. And this ingredient from soap bark or from yucca is a multifaceted organic chemical, which not only stimulates the plant's immune system, but also acts as a wetting agent, which helps re-moisturize your medium. So as you get into flower and you've been pouring this root system full of mineral salts and whatever else you're using, hopefully using our product, the root system will will become just less, water absorb, it'll absorb less water. And so what these saponins do is not only they trigger the plant's immune system, but they also refresh the medium. They bring back up your water content. It improves the ability of the medium to deliver water to the plant, which is really important. A lot of people think, more fertilizer, but actually in the ripening phase of a flowering herb, you want that plant to have access to plenty of water to digest everything it's absorbed in its growth cycle. Because you really don't want a finished product that's going to that tastes green and, ends up smelling like hay. You really want to bring out those
product are we talking about here?
90% of what's on the market.
90% of what's in your country. So what's in your country?
What's in our country?
What's in your country? What are you talking about when you say hay and green?
As far as fertilizer products?
As far as plants?
Oh, as far as plants that smell like hay, we have hay. We have alfalfa. Yeah, we have alfalfa too, man. Yeah,
we have that.
Alfalfa. That's one of the ingredients. Alfalfa's been legal. Yeah,
you can come on again.
Oh yeah, alfalfa's been legal for 100 years.
Quinoa's a great plant to grow. Lots of oils in quinoa.
I'm more interested in the guy opposite you who hasn't said the word yet and just laughed at everything you've said and what part he plays in this. If you dragged him along just to drink beer.
Yeah. So tell him the story as far as how I know you.
Yeah, I mean the story is Chris's, but then we go back to the beginning and wanting to get these products out to the masses, and that's kind of where I came in. And Chris had two SKUs, which are the two original SKUs, the RO Soft and the Tap Hard. Today,
there's a pre-story to that. So Adrian worked at a hydro shop.
Yeah, you worked at a hydro shop, and I used to sell Chris.
Everything
a
from
lot of
rock
the tools,
wool to whatever I needed. And, so
we knew each other.
So became friends. Hydro shops in the States were different back in the day. There was more of a relationship building thing going on. Sure. It was more of like you went into a shop. If you didn't know something, you can get an answer. Yeah. I'm sure that's still part of the culture here, but in the US, unfortunately
that's dead.
It's
pretty dead.
Corporate America, it changes things. And so we've seen a huge shift and stores are no longer a place for information, which is a real shame.
They're just stores now just to buy product.
They're corporate commercialized. They sell their own brands. They're motivated. They're motivated to move the bottom line up for investors.
Yeah.
So
the consumer's more educated too now with the internet.
Podcasts.
Podcasts.
Yeah. Social media,
UK podcast.
And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of bad info out there.
Number one podcast
in the UK, right? Yeah.
In everywhere outside of America.
Yeah, and this will be the number one.
Yeah, the number one episode.
Don't worry, we'll put your product on the map. Don't worry.
So I met Adrian at the hydro shop, and going into a hydro shop and buying your tools, man, it is a beautiful experience. I don't think people really take the time to appreciate hydro stores enough. And I'm only saying this because in the US, I've seen them, just
a major shift. Yeah.
And, hydro stores are there to support a craft that no one else was there to support. It really
He's paid you back in that right hand, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the basic tools, man, to innovate, right? So I needed some basic tools to innovate with, and just being able to buy the right size tubing and pumps, and now these environmental controls that are giving perspective into exactly how much the plant is taking up in its water. I know some of these things haven't caught on here yet, but they do make life a lot easier. So going back to the product, really wanted something easy to apply chemistry that was complete. I didn't want to miss anything, yet I didn't want to spend as much time sorting ingredients and turned it into, my job making this product pretty much, which I enjoy doing. I've loved doing it. We have a good crew, a good family crew business, the atmosphere at work, and it's really enjoyable. It's highly rewarding.
But you've made the product that easy that it gives you more time to spend in your grow room doing other things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's afforded me the time to be able to, dive into some of these new technologies. Like we're working with sap analysis right now, which is fascinating stuff. It allows you to do literally like blood work on a plant, like full counts on calcium, all your trace elements, giving me new perspective into, how boron, for example, is a better way to increase your calcium uptake versus just throwing more calcium at the plant. People just think, oh, I need more calcium and magnesium. And it's like, there are these trace elements that you can add a tiny fraction of that will increase the uptake of some of these things. So it's just giving me a lot of time to be able to look into newer sciences, which in turn will make our product better. Yeah. Gives us perspective to make a more complete product. So it's good stuff, man. I'm excited about it.
Do you feel like you may continue to refine the product even more by investigating new ingredients and testing them and adding them into the products? Because a lot of liquid nutrients have stayed the same for 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's liquid nutrients in this country have gone not stagnant. They do the job, but they are what they are, and they've just stayed the same.
We take pride in that fact.
Yeah, and it's not just we're not just singling out any liquid nutrients.
No, it's irrelevant.
Unless they shout about it, which I've never heard anyone shout about new updated formulation. Yeah, I haven't seen any liquid updated in the last 10 years. So what? Yeah. And when you think about it, that's a bit mad, isn't it? Because we are discovering new ingredients, and if we're not discovering new ingredients, we're discovering better sources of the ingredients, like you said, from Germany and from Norway. Yeah. And so do you feel happy to continually innovate and add new ingredients, or you find a better version of potassium phosphate, you think, what's better, it's going in?
Yeah, I mean, for example, when you look at our catalog, our VBX product, which is a 10-year, it's basically Veg+Bloom 10, it's a 10-year anniversary blend, and it is a compilation of improvements. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I just mentioned.
So is that what the main difference is from the AutoSoft to the VBX? What is the differences there then? Because I know you've got RO and you've got Dirty as well, haven't you? Which is obviously soil and stuff like that. But what's the VBX then? What is that? So
VBX essentially is an enhanced version of AutoSoft, which is modeled after ratios of AutoSoft and Stacks, with a probiotic product that we sell as Organic Research. So we do have a little shout out to Organic Research, which is a employee-owned company. So it's a company, Hydroponic Research being the parent company. Organic Research is a company that is building sister organic company. Products, which is employee-owned. So it's owned. I'm partnered with employees from Hydroponic Research in that venture. And so we use a probiotic that Organic Research manufacturers called HMP, and that's in ratio with Stacks and AutoSoft. So essentially VBX is 3 products in one. Yeah. And it's an improved version of our AutoSoft. But mentioning those, going back to the micronutrients I was mentioning, I've been doing a lot of research, and it makes me want to, improve some of the old products, but I won't, because you have legacy growers that have been using our product for a decade, and the last thing I'm going to do is suddenly throw more iron at them or, bump the zinc on them, because there may be a nuance to their strain or their phenotype where, copper is great where it's at with AutoSoft. Let's not let's not throw any more in there. So we wouldn't change things up on people unannounced. And so VBX is just kind of like, it's an improved version, I would say. in my opinion, of RO Soft, but people still love RO Soft.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've heard through the grapevine as well that you can tell me. I'm interested to hear how the US is getting on, but there's a big switch to LED growing has happened in the last year in the UK, and I'm wondering how VBX might help with the plant growth under LEDs, because I've heard some people absolutely raving about it when using VBX under LEDs.
That's how it was formulated.
Yeah, that's how it was. So research and development of VBX started about 4 years ago. And I adopted all LED. Yeah. I basically just completely abandoned older technology like sodium lighting, high pressure sodium lighting.
Yeah.
And went full LED. When I saw the potential, there was a breakthrough like 6 years ago with LED lighting where it just really started to work. Like people started to understand I need higher humidity. I need warmer temperatures, like the environmental considerations using LED are like profound. Like you just can't run a room like you could with sodium lighting. With LEDs, you literally need to keep your temperature and your humidity higher to promote transpiration, where with sodium lighting, I mean, you're like pulling water through the plant, you're just like radiant energy is just like sucking water through the plant. With LED lighting, you really need to set the environment up right to get that transpiration going. And, which in turn it requires irrigation. You start watering and that's where the plant does its thing, So the R&D that, when I started conceptualizing VBX, it was to maximize and take advantage of this new full spectrum that LED lighting was delivering, and considering those changes in environment, maintaining a VPD, a higher humidity, higher temperature. I wanted a nutrient that would perform better in that circumstance, in that environment, and so by raising some of the trace elements to take advantage of the photosynthetic process, like increasing manganese, for example, which is like a key in the lock of a plant's manufacturing of its own sugars. You need that manganese to split the water molecules apart, and that was something I knew right away. Like I need more magnesium, I need more manganese, I need these photosynthesis heavy inputs to take advantage of all this light, and so that prompted some changes in the micronutrient availability. And so I ran RO Soft up against what I was, producing as VBX. And sure enough, the VBX plants were just consistently 20 to 30% larger under LED lighting. Yeah. So I knew right away I had a better performing formula for LED lighting. Yeah. And RO Soft worked, but the difference was, was significant. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. This is a better product for LED lighting.
Yeah. So anyone that's just thinking about making a switch from HPS to LED or is using liquids on the LED, I know, of course, you're going to say yes, but VBX is the nutrient, is an LED specific nutrient for plants.
Out of your range, though.
Out of your range, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't run anything else.
So can you run, if I was running LED lights, because I'll ask the questions because the people that are listening are going to want to know, you might get people growing LEDs under soil. Now, I know you have dirty, don't you? So can you still run VBX in soil under LEDs?
Yeah. Yes. Soil is chemistry, and it has its own chemistry. Like, depending on the soil you're using, it can be, rich in nitrogen or other elements. So it's kind of hard to standardize soil. You can use VBX in soil, but you have to keep in mind that without proper drainage, right? You have to have proper drainage, and you have to allow for drybacks. You have to allow the soil to evaporate off some of the excess moisture. You have to let the plant take up some of the nutrients, and there's all these other reactions taking place in soil, which are really, it's vastly different from hydroponics. So it will work in soil. I love dirty formula though. I mean, dirty formula is more carbon heavy. It's more carbon rich. It's got a lot of humic and fulvic acids in it, which are great for soils. It helps them really digest and break everything down. It just really feeds the biome, the subculture that's going on in soil. So I love dirty. I just don't use it because I'm always executing hydroponics. Yeah. I stay away from soils because there's too many variables. Yeah. My soil's outside of my raised beds, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like for indoor cultivation, I highly recommend, more inert substrates that you have more control over as far as your dry downs, you know, just the drainage. It's just better.
Yeah.
So,
no knocking on soil growers though.
Yeah,
Some of the
no,
best,
because we do.
Yeah.
I'm only asking the question because I know there will be people out there who haven't made that switch in medium yet and maybe growing from LED and growing in soil.
Yeah.
So it was just a
Go with the
question just
dirty.
to say,
Use dirty.
you
Go with dirty.
dirty more than you go with VBX.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's a soil or peat based mix, dirty.
Dirty.
okay.
But anything else, VBX.
VBX is kind of taking the cake at this point, unless you need to fertigate. And I don't think that fertigation is practical here because, you know, you really don't need fertigation unless you're running a minimum of 50 lights.
Yeah.
And so, and if you do, you're just so lazy that you probably are, you know, I mean, what does it take to mix a batch of nutrients?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm mixing nutrients every day, but I would say with our products, you could easily get away with 2 to 3 day breaks if you wanted to. Which, you know, works for some people. You know, I enjoy gardening, so I don't mind at all checking my res.
Yeah.
There's some people with tricks up the sleeves, and I've heard that what they sometimes do is add shine with VBX. Are you recommending this?
100%.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, you know, as far as growth and greening of plants go, that's not what you want, you know, at the end of the process. You know, you really want to ripen the plant up. You want to send signals to the plant like, hey, it's time to produce that. It's time for the, you know, whatever you call it, the final push. You know, you really don't want green and growth at the end of the process. You want the plant to express its you know, its eagerness to reproduce. And so by dropping the nitrogen out and bringing in the shine mid, you know, 3 to 4 weeks into flower really gives you leverage against the plant producing more green growth. Cause you're not really interested from week 5 to 6 to 7 in new green growth. You really want, you know, development of flowers and reproductive, you know, related processes. So, shine is in my opinion, a necessity if you are, interested in growing high nectar secreting flowers. Like it is the oil, it is the formula for oil production.
Are you tapering off the VBX towards the end?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And this is where the craft really comes in. Everybody has, I believe that, you know, people should make our products an ingredient in their recipe. And when I say recipe, it's everything from your environment to how often you water and how attentive you are. Some people just don't care enough. I mean, let's just be honest. Like you got to care. That's the first ingredient.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make something good. You know, that is huge. But when it comes to using shine with VBX, we recommend starting shine around week 2 of flower, anywhere from 14 to 21 days. It comes in at about 25% of your total formula. So for example, I'm going to try to throw some liters around here, talking liters. Usually, everything in the US is in gallons, but if you got a 20-liter bucket, which is 5 gallons, from right out of the clones, you know, right from clone through week 2 of flower, you're using an average of, let's see here, 40 to 50 grams in 20 liters of VBX by itself, which is really aggressive. I mean, people might say, oh, I don't know, man, that's really intense. You know, that's 2.4 EC, you know, but the reality is that when the nutrients in the right ratios, assuming you've got a, you know, environment that's promoting, that's positive pressure, you know, the plants will suck it up. I mean, they will just turn that into growth. They'll just build with those blocks. I mean, they'll just take off. So till week 2 of flower, using about 40 to 50 grams of just VBX by itself, nothing else. Like you added something else, it's gambling. I mean, you're just adding in who knows what.
Yeah.
And then at week 2 of flower, you're adding in shine at about 2 grams a gallon. So it's in that 20 liters, you're going to add about 10 grams. And that'll be your formula for, you're going to be running, well, not to mention, so VBX, you're trimming it back and then you're adding in shine. So you're going to trim your VBX back to about 25 to 30 grams in that 20 liters. And you're going to use shine at about 10 grams in that 20 liters. I don't know if it's getting too specific, but
no, I tried to help you out here with the VBX calculator on the website, and you've done me dirty. There's no literage in here. It's just gallons. You've gone US heavy, haven't you?
Oh man,
where's the metric system gone?
Yeah, I mean, if we change that, then King Charles might, you might start visiting our site. I'm not sure I want that guy on my website.
What you should do is just put up above it what the gallon is.
3.79.
How many litres are in your gallon? Because your gallon's different from our gallon as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got a US gallon.
You've got
and
a US
UK
gallon.
gallon.
It's 3.8 liters.
What's ours? 4.2.
Oh yeah, so you can get
there's a UK feed
you can
schedule.
get a UK feed schedule.
Some guy made it.
That was the anonymous person in the background telling us.
I mean,
Someone in the peanut gallery.
Someone in the
peanut gallery.
Here's the bottom line. When it comes to questions regarding products, like, we're here to help.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's something I, enjoy doing. What, the time limitation's kind of something, but we do have a crew of people that are eager to help people produce better finished goods.
Yeah.
Because that's really what works in any business is you've got to produce good finished.
To be honest, I've heard nothing but, like Steve said before, the past 12 months it's been starting to shift, but the past 6 months it has sort of took off a little bit, especially for I can only say for our shop. I don't know what every shop in the UK is doing, but for our shop, it's more new people, even people that we haven't spoke to it about it coming in and asking the questions about it now. Do you know what I mean? So it seems like it's starting to move, and the people that have used it aren't going and turning away from it to rebuying. Do you know what I mean? So you have done something right.
The problem I see for you is, I'm going to give you a bit of an insight here.
Sure.
In the UK, I don't know if it's the same in the US, is people love their secret weapons. And
used to be like that.
Well, I feel like it's like that in the UK. I think some really nice people are talking about what they're using, but I think majority are going, we're using Veg+Bloom. We're getting really good fucking results. Let's just keep this to ourselves, because if everyone starts doing it, everyone's going to be on this level. Did you find that in the US?
Well, I'll tell everyone, don't worry.
We are doing. We're telling a lot of people right now.
The secret sauce.
Most people
share my sweets. Jay, I'll tell you.
The secret sauce. I would say the secret sauce is kind of like something that people hide behind. I know that in the industry that we're in, there's a lot of secret sauce out there as far as manufacturers go. I'm willing to, I'm not going to put things on paper because I don't want to divulge formulas and stuff, but I'll definitely open up about ingredients, talk about some of the chemistry when I'm talking to somebody that really wants to understand.
Don't give anyone.
There's one more ingredient, and it's from the sea. And it was when the first came out, so I was like, it's got that in it. And it's
unicorn jizz.
Yeah, it's got that.
Yes.
In 3 grams per litre.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. A lot. Where did you source that from? Because we used to get ours from Poland and it wasn't very good. Sorry to all the Polish subscribers, your unicorn jizz wasn't that good. Is that a secret where you get yours from?
No crusty bottles, man. We don't sell crusty bottles, bro. Our powders flow. We don't sell crusty bottles.
We are going to edit the jizz conversation.
Why? Well, I like the mermaid juice. It's flowing. Do you know what I mean?
We've got King Charles in the background who's like proper. This is podcast.
King Charles is now ringing their Harry in America saying, "Hey lad, get me that fucking mermaid spunk over here real quick." The garden's looking a bit fucking wilted.
I want to pick up on something, because with VBX LED grower, go and get some. You won't be sorry.
No,
but I want to cross out VBX, and because you've got other very good products. You mentioned flow, and I've got a question for flow.
Sure.
If you are in a hydroponic system such as AutoPot, gravity fed, is flow a high recommended product?
Yes.
Is it a product that's recommended just for everyone in everything? Or is it like systems growing, you go, you must use flow, it's so important? Like, what's the sketch with flow?
So, I mean, flow is it's based on a recent discovery that I made. It's a form of hydrogen-rich water coupled with citric acid and saponins. But this hydrogen-rich water has a pH of 2. Now, it's unique in that, you can get on your hands and it's not toxic, right? But it's used in the medical field. I mean, for everything from, sterilizing umbilical cords to it's a really great non-toxic. It's not really that it sterilizes, but it does suppress, bacteria. and keeps them from reproducing and keeps bacteria from producing biofilms, which they need to reproduce. So absolutely will keep everything cleaner. It'll keep your pH in the closer to the right range. So I don't know what your pH is getting to at the bottom of an AutoPot, but it will keep it more slightly acidic versus higher in pH. So it's really super useful stuff.
I know I said we were going to cross out VBX, but on the thread of the conversation, using VBX in an irrigation system like AutoPot, can it be used in irrigation systems with all the ingredients in it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so I use VBX consistently on 2 gallon per hour drippers, 1/4 inch lines, Netafim parts. I mean, I don't want to, name drop, but those are pretty conventional standard irrigation components. And with Flow, I maybe clean my inline Y filters. I don't know if you guys use disc filters here. Filters?
No, they don't.
No.
So yeah, if you're gonna run,
you still come to work on
Don't look at us like that.
Okay, so if you're gonna run irrigation,
they were just shitting on it before the podcast started.
What,
I still wipe my ass on the grass outside.
Automating.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but so
we still have towels in the men's room. We don't have fucking
it literally will
hand
keep your
dryers.
lines flowing if you're using irrigation. Now, if you're not using irrigation, it's just going to keep your pH in the right zone, and it'll keep your surfaces of things like plastics and stuff cleaner. There is a lot of organic chemistry in a lot of our products. We don't just use synthetic minerals. Like we, tap into organic chemistry all day. You don't want to overdo it. I mean, it causes having too much organic material in solution will just cause a mess. It'll go aerobic. You'll have all kinds of problems, but, and Flow will prevent that from happening. It breaks apart organic molecules. It acts as kind of a chelate. So it's a multifaceted, it's an incredible solution. I mean, to a lot of problems, not only just as a substitute for pH down, but also to keep things clean, to prevent anaerobic breakouts. Like, I don't know if you've ever watered a plant and then just smelled funk.
I haven't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's like, it'll
just for the record, I haven't.
and it's lemon fresh.
Right.
Yeah. It smells nice.
And it smells good.
So it's an absolute necessity in systems.
No, it's not a necessity. It's just a powerful tool. I mean, It really helps a lot. And I mean, it's invaluable to me. I mean, now that we have it and, we've applied this medical chemistry towards, our trade, I'm like, there is no substitute for this. Nobody else has it. Nobody else is making it or using it.
Yeah.
It's a perfect alternative to phosphoric and nitric acid, which in the case of 99% of the products out there that are pH down, you're buying ammonium sulfate, nitric acid, and you're adding more nitrogen, more phosphorus, and you really don't want to skew your ratios, And a lot of people add a lot of pH down, and so they're adding a lot of ammonium or a lot of phosphoric acid into their feed.
I like that word you've just used, medical chemistry. I've not heard that word before. I like that.
And going back to ingredients, we use a lot of food grade ingredients too. I mean, fertilizers are generally pretty crude, like the manufacturing processes. I mean, we're talking about boats, like truckloads of salts, I mean, we really tap into food grade, technical grade, a few pharma grade ingredients, like really high end inputs.
Technical grades higher than pharma grade, isn't not many people know about.
They're
grade.
relatively similar. It depends on the system you're.
I think, well, in the UK, you've got agricultural grade, food grade, pharmaceutical grade, and technical grade, where they'll say calcium nitrate, technical grade, because they need to weigh it out to this is literally PhD chemistry stuff.
Sure, it's the purity,
isn't it? So they've got to weigh it to work out whatever it is they're working out, and they need the absolute 0.1 of a bulking agent or unnecessary ingredient. Technical grade is heavy.
Yeah, some of the ingredients are needed in milligrams.
Yeah, and you've got some technical grade ingredients.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, depending on the country and the system of standards, like technical grade might mean, I would consider pharma grade being probably the highest end as far as potency goes and just purity.
It might look it up. I'll look it up after. But in the UK, the pharmaceutical grade is say 97 to 99%. Technical grade is what chemists will use to check out ingredients. They're not using it for plants. They're not using it for food. They're using it to say the atomic weight of calcium nitrate.
Yeah, reagents.
99.9%. It's impressive. I looked up what it costs. So an agricultural grade calcium nitrate, this is not the actual cost, but let's say it costs £100 per kilo. Then you've got pharmaceutical grades, £200 a kilo. Then you've got the technical grade, and it's like up at £500-600 a kilo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like triple, quadruple the price for the ultimate purity.
Yeah. So if we're trying to deliver something that you only need several milligrams of, let's say per gram of our product, you only need 2 milligrams of maybe, a specialty chemical that's going to, really signal the plant a certain way. We'll use a reagent quality or a technical grade product, because you really only want that much in there, and you need to know that you're delivering that much.
Yeah.
A lot of people will just throw so much at the plant. It'll accumulate in plant tissue. It ruins the flavor, ruins the quality. Plants literally choke when they're getting too much salt, too much stuff, and again, going back to the watering without getting into lecturing, it's like, you got to water, man.
For the flow, it's important. So the order for mixing, are you doing it before you add your nutrients or after nutrients?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's in your final volume is the most important consideration. So you have your batch tank, your reservoir full of fresh water. Hopefully it's good water. I mean, you guys have good water here.
Yeah. You guys have good water.
Yeah, I mean, I had to learn water chemistry the hard way. Our water's terrible in San Diego, so I really filter usually to 0 and just run that because I just want to know that I'm not going to get an interference, Yeah.
No, we're quite lucky with our water, aren't we?
Yeah,
I got told off by one person from America, and he said, how good's your water? I went, really good. It's like 0.2 EC out the tap. And he was like, water's shit. Your water's shit. Your water's no good. That's my American accent. You're looking at me like, what the fuck have you just said?
We're all looking at you like, what the fuck has he just
You do an American accent then? Big licks. At least I give it a go. But he was like, no, it's RO or nothing. RO and build your water back up with all the ingredients.
Yeah.
Suppose that is the right way to do it.
Because you never know what you get.
I mean, and it's like he said, you get interference with other stuff.
You can, if you live in the U.S., I mean, we do water analysis all the time. We'll take a look at people's water profile, and it ranges significantly. Like, it's not all bad. It's not all bad water in the U.S. We just live in a very specific place where we get the tail end of the Colorado River. So by the time the water's gotten to us, it's moved through the desert, sucking limes, lime out of stone, and it's like evaporating, right?
Shit.
Yeah. The water, water's evaporating off, and all these minerals are condensing in this final water we get. Our EC is about, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. Like, it's bad. So we have to filter down. We've developed products
Tap Hard
that work in tap water, but you're not going to get the results you get from fresh, clean water. And you guys do. If you have 0.2 EC water, you have excellent water. I mean, it's like, assuming there's no like bacteria or anything in there. It's like any.
And look at Barry. He drinks loads of tap water, so it can't be that good.
Can't be that bad. Dom's still here.
He says it.
Still here.
So you can add flow before or after your nutrient.
Yeah. All of our products. It doesn't matter.
I add it after because it's acidic, and I want to know when I want to know when things are complete and mixed. Then I'm gonna, so I use it to hit a certain pH. So I add my base first, drops the EC or drops the pH some, right? Nutrients are acidic, and then I use flow to really dial it down to wherever it's needed. It's usually about 0.5 ml per gallon, super concentrated. So 0.2 EC, you're probably going to need about, I would say 0.5 ml is still applicable in 0.2 EC. It's very concentrated. You don't need a lot.
Okay.
And that should bring it right into range with VBX, right around 5.6, 5.7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect range.
Yeah. For most media, for most hydroponics.
Tell us about problems people can have, not with the product, but is there anything that they shouldn't do that you've like growers' faults that they've messed about with, like maybe not measured? Is measuring super important, like the weights or the scoops? And just tell us about some problems that people might experience.
A lot of people will take the powder and they'll go, I'm going to mix it in a small little container first. I'm going to put it in a blender, and I'm going to
something they're trying to mix for 100 liters, mixing it into 5
over here where they'll get.
It's wrong.
Yeah, I did that when it first came out.
And that's kind of the magic, and even what the product is. It's the only one part. Yeah, it's huge.
A lot of people, and it's like, did you do it?
Yeah, I did it because
and
before he even got told how to use
and that's
it.
our fault.
I would have got a 1 litre jug or a 2 litre jug and put it in, mixed it up, and then poured it in.
Yeah.
But it makes sense not to do that because it's that concentrated. It can't.
When it get
dilute properly.
Listen,
in
and
that
I'll let
water.
Chris finish, but there's a
And
reason why
people in the
everything's
room
two
as well.
parts.
They were all hold your hands up if you're all done it.
We get it
Have you
still
done it?
back home. We get this. Yeah,
He's
we
done
get
it. He
this
just put his
problem
hand
back
up
home
before.
all
Put
the
your hand
time
up,
still.
didn't you? Peanut. Yeah, he done it as well.
So, I mean, what happens is if you try to make it so it's already super concentrated, right?
Yeah.
And if you try to make a liquid concentrate out of a super concentrated dry product, you're going to have what we call precipitation take place. So you have all this calcium and all this sulfur, and those two things, when they're in the same solution, they bond. They form calcium sulfate. And essentially what happens is you lose some of your calcium and sulfur because it falls out. It bonds. Those things come together, and they will fall to the bottom of your, whatever you're mixing in. So you have these precipitates, and that's just wasted calcium and sulfur essentially. So you want to add it to your final volume of water.
Yeah.
You want to mix up, you want to get your whole res filled to the top and concentrated powder and make it into a concentrated liquid, especially considering the 1 part aspect.
The 1 part is what,
It's got a lot of calcium and sulfur in it, and those two things just bond when they're together.
Other competitors.
Once I've made me res up then, and I've added me powders, mixed it up, is it ready to use then?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's ready to use straight away. There's no leaving it to stand or leaving it to mix or.
So if somebody really wanted to work smarter with the powder, one thing I recommend is if you have a 50 gallon, what's the average size reservoir
tank,
here?
100 litre tank.
Okay, average size 100 liter tank. Yeah. So if you have a 100 liter tank, you would, for example, if you're running 10 grams to a gallon, what is that for a 100 liters?
1,000 grams.
1,000 grams.
Yeah.
So you would weigh out 1,000 grams. You'd buy your, let's say you buy a kilo or a 5 pound of our product.
No, it's not.
That's not that, right?
No,
wow.
100
for
100. No, it's only 25.
You're pushing your product now, aren't you, Ray?
That's 25 gallons, right?
Yeah.
25 gallons.
25 gallons,
that's
10 grams, 250.
250 grams.
You're just trying to sell more product.
So what you would do is you would once you have our product, is you would weigh out bags with 250 grams in them. So every time you filled up your reservoir, you just use the same bag, and that's great too for taking the learning curve out of teaching someone to water your garden. If you have to do a res change,
most ranges have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can name a range that's got about fucking 12 or 13. You try and teach someone that it's 1 mil of that, 4 mil of that, 3 mil of that, 6 mil of that, 5 mil of that.
So
it's not. It's that foolproof that
Barry could use it.
You could lit.
So if you're an operator,
fucking Ruth, give him a slap. Lean over the table and give him a right Yankee slap. Dead hard. But it's foolproof in that way, isn't it? Where anyone can use it. It's easy. I could say to you, not knowing anything about hydroponics, do me a favour, empty that bag into that tank and it's done. It's that easy. I could even tell you to weigh 200 gram out of that tub and put it in that tank. It's that easy.
That's really how Veg+Bloom started.
Yeah, I'm not trying to educate you.
This is how he really started. This is how I know that.
This was the
Why, was you a bit thick as well?
Yeah.
I said, lad, I need it in one fucking syringe.
I don't know.
Yeah, so we ran.
I had a green thumb. That was it.
So I ran what was about 140 lights at the time, which, even back in the early 2000s, that was a pretty big,
that's a lot,
big spread. And we had daisy chained. I don't know if you guys sell green trees here.
No, they don't. Ebb and flow buckets. The blue buckets.
No.
The original.
We had these massive, they were really easy to lay out.
Awesome system. Yeah.
But
they'll come here in about 10 years or something.
No, it's ebb and flow.
We'll do another
podcast. Ebb and flow, individualized.
Like we would have like a Hugo block, a 6-inch Rockwell block on top of a little net pot, a little net basket, and it would just flood and drain. It was an easy way to just cover a large footprint, because we had at the time, there was this boom going on, and it was just like, real estate was available, and it was just, we wanted to fill as much space as possible, at that time. And so you have all of these daisy chained 50 gallon, which is what, 200 liters or something, drums. And if I wanted to take a couple days off or I just couldn't make it to them all, I would just weigh them out and label them and just leave them for my guys, knowing that they were going to add the right amount of weight.
Yeah.
You know, it takes all the guesswork out.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried that they were going to, you know, add the B twice, you know, like add too much of this or too much of that. It was like, here's the bag. There's the reservoir. All you got to do is it's one plus one. Like, yeah, it's
Easy.
1 plus
Yeah.
1.
The best
you can't
thing,
fuck that up.
Put fresh water in the tank.
Add
Add this fucking bag.
the best
Don't be
one
a
I've heard
dipshit.
is the best one we've
Don't
heard
be
in
a
the
monkey.
shop. Yeah.
You like that?
I've added, I do. I've added all the B. When do I add all the A? That's the best one I've heard in the shop. I've added all of the B. When do I start adding A?
Oh man.
So that's
That's what
Veg+Bloom
you're up
solves
against.
that problem.
Yeah.
Use it 10 years ahead of us. So
Yeah.
So
Not anymore.
when I've
yeah,
It's
still,
closing.
you know,
The learning curve is
it's
quickly
hard.
yeah,
tightening.
we are catching up. It
for
was
sure.
yeah,
Really quick.
It was 10 years ago, and we've educated a few people, haven't we, on our
Sad.
little platform?
We've tried. I think the problem you've got with today's society, the right word, that everyone's like a fucking expert now, aren't they? I think like
The common thing is it. My mate said.
yeah, my
So
mate
everyone's
said.
got the most expert
yeah.
mate in the world.
Yeah.
So they
to
don't
them.
listen to what it's like when you said before you were going back to how you met Tingyo in a grow shop and speaking to him and getting the right tools off him and the right stuff that you need. Now it's like everyone's an expert. And that's like a bit of a problem in this country is everyone's an expert. And no one's willing to change. Do you know what I mean? But it's got to change, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
in order to move forward.
it's just going to change. And if you don't grow with that change, then you get stuck in your arrogance. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still learning so much. And the thing right now is it's a great time for innovating, you know, agricultural techniques with
Yeah.
technology. I mean, there's just with, you know, just sensors and environmental data, just all the data that you're able to capture. You know, as I mentioned sap analysis earlier, that this was a methodology that wasn't available 3 years ago. Like they're literally able to drain the xylem and phloem of a plant and look at it like blood work.
I don't
Tell
know
you
what he said then.
exactly.
I think I'm half educated and I don't know what he said. then.
Well, no, but what I'm trying to say is this is a tool
Yeah,
that wasn't
it's-
available.
It's exciting.
That gives you, it's like adding a new window onto your house in the winter for the sun. Like it just gives you so much more, like
Yeah.
it puts so much more light on the subject.
He said the phloem and the xylem's basically the arteries and the veins of a plant.
Yeah, I know. Figured that out.
There you go. Get back to your Doritos now. Something that I came across and I just couldn't help myself is been using multiple ingredients in multiple bottles for years. I really wanted to add something extra. I tell people the dangers of adding other products because it was too easy. Like I added did the scoop, went in, stirred it up. I was like, nah, that just can't be it. Surely I can add some root stem. A little bit of extra root stem will like make it a bit better, or just a little, everyone's favorite, a little bit extra PK, week 5, boom.
Yeah.
Make it better. I came under that sort of threat. I really wanted to add something extra. So tell people about the downside of adding other ingredients on top of other liquid ingredients, because people will get the urge. They feel like they have to because it's what's natural to them. They've done it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They'll want to add something else. So just tell people about the importance of don't go with that urge.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, right? It's just kind of like this, I'm going to get more if I put more of this in or that. But if you don't really understand what you're putting in the first place, let's just go back to the labels. If the product's not properly labeled, you're not really sure what you're adding. So if you're, you know, just adding, I mean, if I were going to add anything, if I were a grower, it'd be CO2.
Yeah.
CO2. CO2 is important.
Yeah.
It makes a big
Yeah.
difference, especially with LED lighting. Yeah. It's just CO2 is, it's not, it's, you know, you can burn natural gas and produce CO2, which is kind of, I mean, it's kind of dirty. You know, I use tanks of CO2. It's kind of a hassle, but it does make a big difference. The one
If you're
thing to
saving
add.
all the time, spend your time on CO2. We've said it plenty of times as well. It's the oxygen of the plant.
It's carbon.
Yeah.
It's more carbon the plant has available to play with. And that's what, I mean, plants are built on carbon, you know, so it's important. But going back to what you asked, it's hard to discourage people from being curious, but if you don't really know what you're playing with, if you don't know what you're adding, don't do it, because you're gambling. You're just
wasting.
And you're not going to accomplish
mainly.
anything other than spending more money.
Yeah.
And potentially it could be a detriment. I've seen people add things and just, plants cringe. Like, wow, there's that product is almost all potassium. There's already plenty of potassium in our product. You don't need to add any more. There's already plenty of phosphorus in our product. That's why using Flow, you're not adding more phosphoric acid, which is what most pH downs are. We understand that. So we discourage people from adding other chemistry to the root zone. Again, chemistry is CO2. It's, there's a lot going on with the lighting, your VPD. Yeah. So
I'm going to throw out a potentially difficult question for you that I've heard some people give is that what people are used to is adding higher amounts of nitrogen in the veg, lower amounts of PK, to put it really crudely, because I know it's not quite like that. And you get into flower, you lower your amounts of nitrogen, you add higher levels of PK. People, I imagine some people's misgivings about using it all in one powder, which is you're tapering it up and then tapering it down, is I'm not altering the ratios, I'm just adding extras of what's already in there. So what would your response be to people who are like, I'm not adding any more PK and I'm not reducing my nitrogen? Like, what would you say to those people?
Well, I mean, it's important. Again, I mean, green growth isn't what you want. And, towards the end of your process, you're really trying to encourage the plant to produce secondary metabolites, not new vegetative growth. So as far as, manipulating the ratios, again, as you're dropping the VBX, which is your source of nitrogen, it's the source of a lot of your, macro and micro. It's the source of all of your nutrients, right? Yeah. But you don't want that nitrogen. So by bringing in Shine, which has no nitrogen in it, and not to get into species of nitrogen, but nitrogen comes in a lot of different flavors. There's nitrate nitrogen, there's ammoniacal nitrogen, there's organic nitrogen. So we use all of these different varieties of nitrogen in different ways. But to keep it simple, you can use Shine by itself from like week 6 of flower, and the plant has stored enough nitrogen in its system. It's got enough gas in the tank for it to get to across the finish line. And it's triggering the plant's immune system, and it's sending the right signals to maximize oil production. That's really what makes the difference, in our product. But yes, you want to drop the nitrogen out, which is like, you can end your VBX use at week 6 on most strains. I don't know if people are growing these like, equatorial varieties. You don't know what the popular trend is. There's a lot of different genotypes out there, phenotypes. And, but for a 56 to 60 day strain tomato,
indeterminate.
It pays in spades when it comes to quality to get rid of the nitrogen towards the, 6th week of your flower on average.
Tell us, I don't think we touched on it. Apologies if we did, but what exactly does Shine do, and how is it a unique product in the market?
So as a conventional tool, it's a source of P and K. It's got carbohydrates in it. Breaking that down further, part of the, potassium and phosphorus chemistry is that we use phosphite in ratio with phosphate. And then as far as the carbohydrates go, we use really exotic carbohydrates, which would include the saponins I talked about. So it's kind of like if you took a PK product and you took a product that, had the right signaling chemistry in it to boost the plant's immune system, it'd be like combining those products into one powder.
Okay.
So it's a more complete version of what people are selling as PK, carbohydrates, and boost products.
Yeah.
It's essentially consolidating those products into a dry good. That's what it is.
Any good end tips for getting the best out of Shine?
Shine finish.
So Shine powder finish is a methodology that's kind of like intro, easy to do. You bring it in at week 2 to 3 of flower, and you run it at 2 grams per gallon, which is what per liter? I don't know. The feed schedule is available through Highlight.
About 0.5.
Yeah.
0.5 grams.
Roughly.
Half a gram, roughly.
So you use it at, in ratio with your base till week 6, and then you can just completely drop out your base nutrition, stop using the VBX, and just run shine at 2 grams a gallon up until about 3 days from harvest, where you just run water because you really just want to keep the plant hydrated, but you really you want the ratio of salt to water to really be as lowest as possible for those last few days.
Perfect, spot on. I want to get into I think we've touched on how it's made, but really I want to go straight into the homogeneity, that how you've micronized this. So you're not just one of powdered nutrients, you are the one powdered nutrient that micronizes in this very specific way. Would you tell people what you do and why it's beneficial to them as a grower?
Sure. So, on scale, micronizing is pretty gnarly. Like it's, when you're pulverizing things, it has to be done in a very specific environment. There's a lot of safety precautions, I wouldn't recommend somebody to just go out and buy some potassium nitrate and pulverize it. They might blow themselves up, but there's a lot of we really had to lean on, the pharmaceutical.
This podcast goes out on Sunday and the fucking fire brigade are going to be off the wall Sunday night. Don't
try to make Veg and Bloom. You'll blow yourself up.
Shed roofs will be off everywhere.
You might get a knock on your door.
I had to lean on some, engineering and manufacturing around pharmaceutical grade. Making powders is not simple. It can be extremely messy. So when it comes to manufacturing in general, safety and health are something that I've invested heavily into. We have getting the environment right to do this work. There's a lot of safety involved. There is, if you're not doing it right, you could cause, things to, a lot could happen, so there's a lot invested into what I need to do to protect myself and the people that are working with me on this. So it's not conventional technology we're using. These are, the chemistry, it can easily go bad. So when it comes to homogenizing, we're manufacturing in batch sizes of about 4,000 pounds. And so I don't know how that translates.
What he's speaking of is a lot of other powders. You might get one scoop at the beginning so a lot of other solubles.
If you look at our product, when you look at it in the container, when you pour it out, it looks entirely different from most of what other people are calling powders, which are actually granules. They're like prills. We don't sell prills. We don't sell a crude product. These are super fine.
Which kind of brings it full circle. We homogenize it. So we mill things. We make it all the same size. So when your first scoop, everything would be consistent with the last scoop. There's going to be no difference.
Yeah.
It's not going to separate itself while it's moving and transit from San Diego to Liverpool.
That is a question
it's
that
a big
people
thing.
have asked is how do I know that in this scoop there is the X amount of grams of nitrogen and potassium, and calcium and magnesium,
the ratios
and then what's in
correct.
this scoop?
Yeah.
And that's the problem that you get with more salt-based or not micronized powders. We've talked about this a few times and we're using maybe the wrong language. What's the difference between powders and salts?
Well, it's kind of abstract, right? You could say that, you could powder a salt. You could refine it. You could pulverize it, run it through a mill. I think that what makes our product different is its free flowing consistency. It's probably the homogeneous aspect of it, and how it's homogenized is, it's just done on another level. It's not, reacted and then put through a screen and then put in a bag and sold, which is fertilizer. That's fertilizer. That's a traditional fertilizer manufacturing process. Sure, the reactors, those are really intense, very expensive, massive amounts of materials going through these things, dangerous, So it's, manufacturing the product is a full-time job. I'll put it that way.
Moving on, moving on to one of the products that's unfortunately not in the UK, but we've got a massive American listenership. The Bacteria Plus Life.
Yep.
We can't not talk about it just because we don't get it, and I'm really gutted about that. Sort your shit out, UK government. Why? Tell people why they can't get it for now, but then tell the Americans and the people and the countries that have got it why it's so good.
So Plus Life is a mycorrhizae inoculant with a vast array of bacteria, but really the main, I think what makes it unique, and not only is its potency, but the fact that there are several species of glomus in it. So it's got a variety of fungus in it, which is not it. I don't know what the laws are in the UK around fungal inoculants. But very, very heavily researched. The microbiologist that grows the spores that produces the mycorrhizae from us has selected for resistance to salts. Okay. So these mycorrhizae perform well with fertilizers. So if you went out and you tried to source mycorrhizae from your local pasture or something, some of these strains have no familiarity with being around fertilizers. Like they'll just die. So these are selected specifically to thrive in the presence of salts and minerals and fertilizers.
You know what? Actually, I might take that back about bringing mycorrhizae into the UK. Have you seen the program The Last of Us?
Yeah, I love it, man.
maybe keep fungus out the fucking UK.
Yeah.
If anything's going to happen like in The Last of Us, let's just keep it US based.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen The Last of Us, it's a very good program, very realistic program because it's about fungi evolving to take over humans' brains.
Well, that's what happens if you eat Plus Life. You will be like you'll become like the rest of them.
You'll end up like The Last of Us.
You will be. It'll be the last of you.
Telling you.
But yeah, the mycorrhizae is the key. The last, the selections of mycorrhizae are really the gold in that product. Not saying the bacteria aren't important.
Yeah.
And it's the other key consideration with that product is it's really high in amino acids, which really make a great source for, going back to nitrogen, organic nitrogen, which is absorbed completely different by the plant. It's it greens growth like nothing else. So it's really good for just chlorophyll production. Organic nitrogen is very good, but it's high in that too, because that's also what these fungi use as a food and carbon source.
Yeah.
To get going, because you don't just put them in. You're not just adding fungus spores into your medium. You're actually providing food with that to get them going. They need specific vitamins and things to really thrive. So that product provides all of that along with the bacteria and the fungus.
Well done, US. Fucking hell. Moving on anyway, because we can't get it. I wanted to, obviously there might be stuff I've missed out on your products, but I love to talk to anyone that's come over about the difference between the UK and the US and the problems and the pros. Specifically, I've written a question down here, which is the shops in the US versus the UK. Now, where the UK is going through a bit of a tough time, it's never fully recovered from the COVID. It's picking up now. But I was really interested to hear you say about people should respect grow shops a lot more than they do. A lot of people are going online, which is fair enough. It's easy and people want to make their lives easier. But I was listening intently when you were saying about the craft of being a grow shop and the craft of directing growers to the best produce that they can make. Where's the US at the moment? Is it thriving? Is it down? What are the grow shops like?
The US has we're going through what I would consider corporate consolidation, where you have these investment driven businesses buying up hydro stores, turning them more into chains, more into like a convenience store almost. Like, hey, and in the process of that, they're rebranding and making their own products. So there really isn't a choice. You're not going there to get a good, to get some insight. They're like, buy our products.
Yeah.
So the stores, the business model has changed, and now it's gone full Wall Street money, parent company.
And you can couple that with the consumer as well.
And you can just look at their value on the stock market, and they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And what they're doing wrong
is more educated too, just to even couple with that, this major shift that we're having in the States.
Well, what they're doing
consumers
wrong,
are more educated.
Yeah.
Their access to, you got the internet, everything's, you can ask a question, Google it, boom, it's at your fingertips, and just have most of the times too much information.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But that's where we're seeing corporate consolidation along with a really educated end user that
knows
has a lot of the answers, knows what they already think they know.
So
and then
businesses, their
make
big
decisions.
business idea is we're going to make the supply chain pump, right? We're going to move volume. We're business. We're going to make all this money. But the reality is the knowledge and value chain that comes with like passionate people that are executing the craft themselves, like growers, people sharing ideas. When you take that out of the equation, it doesn't, just look at the value on their stock market. I mean, these companies, these are public companies, and you can see there's a detriment to the culture. Like you have this company that just wants to make money and these people are coming in and they're just pushing their products. But what you're missing is this genuine kind of like, I trust you because I know you. Like when I met Adrian working in the grow shop, there was a trust built because, we're growing a plant that not everybody's growing. And we were able to share information about that plant. And that wasn't something you could just talk to anybody about at the time. Things have changed and that's great. In that respect, things are great. Like we can be more open and talk about things more freely, right? Like freedom, but at the same time, the side effect of that is these corporate, entities that don't appreciate what we had to deal with when we were, trying to set up every closet, every 2-bedroom, every, single car garage we could find, like running a risk, right, for a reward. They don't appreciate like what people learned in the process of that. I mean, we built the foundation that this, massive company that came along tried to build on top of, and it just crushed it. And so the value of people, I think, is what's missing. The culture, the grow culture in the US, unfortunately, when you have these massive factories, what do you call them? They're just like,
they're huge.
They're huge grows. There is something that starts to become, there's a vacancy of quality, of value.
Yeah. There was an image that I was just looking for, Dan, and it was, I couldn't find it. But it's basically an image of lovely green grassland, somebody living the good life, but underneath with the soil, and was hundreds of people that have elevated and have built. It's a symbol for industry, and it's very relative to the industry you're in, the industry we're all in, the people who worked hard to build it to where it is today on the shoulders, and then the profiteers, the corporates come in and just, it's nice grassland, it's like pasture land, and they forget the people that built it to that level, that built the foundations. I think that's where a lot of people get quite annoyed.
I mean, I wouldn't give up on it, but it's like definitely changed dramatically. And I would say that in your country, if you see something or somebody come along that's trying to, I don't know if monopolize is the right word, but just, they try to control it, I would resist.
Yeah, just
I don't know how to
say that.
How you do that? But
say that one more time, please, because I might clip this little bit into a 1 minute section, and the 1 minute section is you're talking about something that in the UK you don't know what you've just talked about, but all of us in the room know exactly what. I mean, what we're all thinking. Yeah. So say it again about monopolies and what should people do if monopolies are trying to take over.
I think it's important. I think it's important in this culture, in a culture where people are appreciating something as simple as plant life, which is, something that we've been, on some level are like companions, right? Plants can be, it's something that we've all benefited from. It's the reason why society, civilization exists, is our ability to, raise that, to perform agriculture. I would say that if you see someone come along or something come along, a force come along that attempts to just monotonize, just monopolize, that it's something to resist. It's something, support your local grow shop, support the fact that there are real people that own those shops, and there are real people that work at those shops that are genuinely trying to transfer a knowledge that's valuable, because that's really what's of value. Yeah, sure. The brands are important. It's hopefully a stamp and a seal, a signature of quality. I mean, that's kind of what I believe a brand should be. It's not just a money making thing like, oh, it's shiny, and it should symbolize something that's deeper than just monotonizing, that's deeper than just,
It worries me because 5 years ago for us, we had an amazing community. I did all of the vast majority of my learning specifically with lighting on forums with the American lighting companies and the Dutch lighting companies, and some so knowledgeable people. I was so grateful for those forums. In months and years, I learned what these people had took decades to do. It was such a good community. And what worries me, annoys me, I hope we can recover from is the loss of the community that we've had. People, and we were talking about it last week, weren't we? The pie has shrunk and more people are trying to have a slice from it. And these corporate people are coming in, and it's, it worries me that we go the way you're saying the US has gone, corporate, chains, profitability, and moved away from the craft. And I'm really hoping that we come full circle a lot quicker. We go through, because we're going to have to go through it, because everyone goes through, it's business, it's industry. We go through the corporate, but then we come back really quickly to craft, like craft beers. And I'm now seeing craft beer shops opening back up where they only sell 6 beers that are only brewed within 25 miles, and they're pumping. Do you know what I mean? Because people have gone through the 40s, 50s, 60s where it was bespoke, macro, it was craft. Yeah, it's macro. Corporates came in, made a lot of money, the multi-million-pound industries, and now people are now reverting back to your really unique craft beers. Like some people I know will go and won't drink a beer that's sourced more than 25 miles away because they want to, like Lake District IPA and stuff like that. And I hope we come back to that within our industry and plant growing and go back to the craft of it, because it's amazing.
Absolutely. Keep crafting.
Keep crafting. For anyone who's got to the end, well done. Well done for listening in one chunk, because I think most people are listening in little chunks. So grateful, because you're going to give away 5 sets of £5 VBX and £11 Shine. So we're going to come up with that. And he was big balls at the start of the show. It was 5. It was 5, wasn't it? I've written it down.
Yeah, 5 VBX and £1
Shines with each VBX. So they've got a full kit.
Yeah, not £11.
Not £11.
Oh, sorry, listeners. I was trying to get you extra. Oh, yeah. It's 11 BS, so it's 11 bullshit. It's 1 LBS. So 5 £1 Shines.
No.
LBS.
No.
It'll all confused us all here.
It'll all go on an Instagram post, so don't worry about it. It's late night.
£5 VBXs. Yeah. And to go with each VBX is a £1 Shine.
We've done that on purpose. There's a method to the madness.
Terms and conditions below.
I guess we're throwing an extra half pallet in on the next.
We are also going to try and get some T-shirts and hats off them as well.
Yeah, down the line, because we're going to have you guys back when you're next in the UK, because we obviously...
I think you'll be in the UK pretty often.
Summer. Yeah, that's the plan.
Are you going to come back for summer social?
Summer social for sure.
Proofs in the pudding. I think we'll be seeing a lot more
I've seen him. He's trying to crawfish out of it.
Peanuts.
He committed earlier.
Yeah, what is that?
They face forward and they go backwards.
Look,
I don't have any antennas.
There's information for if you've had information overload and you want to digest in your own time, go to www.hydroponic-research.com. You find all the information that you need on there, and then Instagram, you're at Hydroponic Research.
Hydroponic Researcher. ER on the end.
Yeah. That's the big one for you.
That's him. No, the big one for us.
Well, that's my account. But we have hydroponic.research. Veg+Bloom is our more of our social media. Like there's a lot of
official
videos and stuff.
Like business account.
Veg+Bloom.eu would be a good resource if you have questions and you're in the UK. Or Scotland, you can reach out to Veg+Bloom.eu.
That's the UK.
Oh, it's all the UK. That's right.
No, they want to be. They want to be separate.
It's united.
They want a border, but they're not fucking getting one.
I thought it was the United States of Scotland.
The United States of Scotland.
Yeah,
it was, and she retired.
I forgot how united you guys were over.
Have you been watching Braveheart recently?
Yeah.
Hey, freedom.
They're not getting a border unless they pay for it themselves, and they can't afford
it. From myself, if anyone else has got any more questions, but from myself,
you guys.
That was a pleasure.
Statement. Thanks for having us, man.
We spoke a lot about the products,
thanks for the support.
Next time you're on, we'll get into the nitty gritty and the politics and do more UK versus US.
I might get a whole sentence in next time.
I felt the same as you. Me and you should have just got off and got on the aisle. Just left these.
No, but I love it. Yeah, I told you guys. That's how it goes, man. This is the story.
I don't want to leave anything out.
I love it. It's important. It's critical.
What would you like to put out, Barry?
Critical Chris.
Critical Chris, yeah.
Hashtag critical Chris.
A negative Barry.
Oh, welcome to my world. But yeah,
you should have your own
I'm going to
podcast.
critique the corporation.
I'll get him to
Can we kick him off and you just come and live over in the UK and we'll start the podcast?
Criticize the corporations.
Guys,
You got to be critical of those bastards.
No, it has, man. Thank you guys again.
Thank you very much for coming over. It's much
It's nice to
appreciated.
come across the pond and then like-minded individuals and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, man.
Thank you very much.
Everybody.
And
Thanks,
we'll
man.
speak to you very soon again. Support your local hydro shop. Boom, he smashes the laptop.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah.